Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Armor of Truth Live number 348. Summer.
Hi, hi, hi.
There she is.
She lives.
Let me go ahead, folks, and show you this. This your moment of Zen.
On this, before we go, one of the things you have as president is the access to all the information in the world, all the mysteries out there. And I was just struck in the last couple of weeks, we're reading more and more reports of Navy pilots seeing lots and lots of UFOs. Have you been briefed on that? What do you make of it?
I have. I think it's probably... I want them to think whatever they think. They do say, I mean, I've seen and I've read and I've heard, and I did have one very brief meeting on it, but people are saying they're seeing UFOs. Do I believe it? Not particularly.
Do you think you'd know if there were evidence of extraterrestrials?
Well, I think our great pilots would know. And some of them really see things that are a little bit different than in the past. So we're going to see. But we'll watch it. You'll be the first to know.
I want to be the first to know.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC.
Oh, sorry about that, George. You want to be the first to know? Okay, coming up. Problems with Trump appointees. It's same old swamp people in some of the spots. And who is this new border czar? I mean, this guy's hardcore. There's a new autism study that's come out just ahead of the Trump presidency, or it looks like they're trying to get their story straight about what causes it. Check that out in a minute. It's a limited hangout. RFK is talking about fluoride in the water supply, but for some reason he can't just go all the way with it. Why is that? Same reason he doesn't seem to want to go all the way with the other issue. Also, as you just saw there, Trump... people think he's going to release all the secrets on all the aliens we've been hiding for years. All right. And lastly, COP29 is starting, and they're scared to death of Donald Trump. They're horrified of what he means for climate change. All right. Let's get started. So Luke said we disconnected and reconnected. I don't know what's going on. Trying to do shows around here has been like, I don't know. But
Looks like you're good to me.
Let's just get through it. Wow.
There's no jumping. There's no stopping.
Can't express to you folks how difficult it's been just to do the job lately, just to get streams on the air.
Yeah, actually, speaking of that, let us know if you guys have had any like incidents where, you know, your computer has just logged you out of everything, like just anything weird going on with your computer, because we've been going through that and we're wondering if it's unique. Because I've definitely had problems with my computer, and then here in the studio, we've just had one thing after the next. It's really bizarro world.
That's true. Let us know what you think, if you see anything odd out there, because it sure has been odd around here. There are gremlins in the studio. Well, is it a win for Western civilization? Here's our position on the Trump presidency, basically. This is really, we're looking at it as a reprieve. Trump is no savior, of course, we know that, but it's kind of a reprieve. We were heading down the path at about
warp speeds ahead,
600 miles an hour, you know. And with Trump in there, maybe it pulls back to a couple hundred miles an hour. We've slowed down. So we think that's a good thing in that respect. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to see all kinds of people that give you the heebie-jeebies that he's going to appoint. But here's what we should do. We should see this opportunity like Joseph did in Egypt when the Lord told him he had 7 years to prepare for a great famine. That's how we should think about this. However long, if it is a reprieve, however long this reprieve lasts, now's the time to prepare, to prep. Prices will probably drop. Things will become more affordable. You'll have an opportunity to prepare, to store up for whatever might be coming in the future. Maybe nothing will happen, but there's a biblical there's biblical support for being prepared, keeping your storehouses full. All right, let's jump in here. Look at this. Starting off here, Michael O'Fallon talks about, here we go, some of the Trump appointees that are there. Let's see, I'll jump over here to this article first. Of course, I lost it.
Are you looking for Bergman?
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. All right, anyway, the article you just gave me 2 seconds ago
Okay, well, it's on the profile.
about, yeah, I don't know where it is. I just put it right there.
Well, this woman right here, well, you had it up there,
That's Alex Epstein. It's amazing. There we go. Gosh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to read through all the pics. We'll just look at a couple of them. Particularly, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will lead a new Department of Government Efficiency, where apparently they're going to cut some superfluous agencies. I think that would mean that's all they would do is be cutting day after day, because the federal government is nothing but a superfluous agency. So maybe that'll be good. I don't know. You folks might have a different opinion about those guys. That's fine. Yeah. Pete Hegseth's going to be the Secretary of Defense. He's a good guy. It's just he's a young guy, and it's interesting. I like the guy. He's been on Fox for years. John Ratcliffe's going to be serve as CIA director. I mean, it's really like a full shift in worldview, basically, that's going to be in these positions. There's envoy to the Middle East. Mike Huckabee is going to be the it's envoy to Israel. Okay, and here we have Mike Waltz. Trump confirmed today that he's appointed Congressman Mike Waltz from Florida to serve as his national security. There it goes again. Anyway. So, Michael Waltz, here's what O'Fallon says. For your information, this is the page for Julia,
Neshawat, maybe. That's my guess.
Actually, I had a
Neshawat on the Wayback Machine. Like they tried to scrub this.
Yeah, I've got that graphic here.
So she's got ties to the WEF and the Council on Foreign Relations.
Oh my goodness, unbelievable.
And apparently, Mike Waltz is also like very supportive of Israel. And
there she is.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they tried to get rid of that one, and O'Fallon was able to find it through the Wayback Machine.
So again, who is she? This is his wife? Is
yeah.
That what you're saying? All right. Well, Vivek Ramaswamy had a World Economic Forum page as well, and he had his taken down.
Yeah.
It was, something to that effect, where he wasn't real happy about having it there, but, it was there.
Well, the Young Global Leaders program, I think they have like 3,000 or 4,000 people that have been trained up since the 90s.
Yeah.
So they're all around the world, guys.
There it is. So
all around the world. And
Mike Waltz's wife, right? That's who she is. So, okay.
And that was back in September 27th, 2016.
That she was on the WEF's page, right?
Well, that she was, that's the last time that picture was snapped.
When she was on the WEF, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And, of course, then there's this. You can't see the top there because there we go. Doug Burgum has been slated to head up the Department of Energy. Burgum is interesting character. Click on this and go to Future Farmer. This website here, you can read about his, what he said.
Yeah, we've got that on our Substack and on our Twitter.
Yeah, he's very proud of what they've been able to do to keep the environment clean, I guess, in North Dakota. He says we're already living in an increasingly carbon-constrained world. Is that right? And that's why I issued the aspirational challenge earlier this year at the Williston Basin Petroleum Conference for North Dakota as a state to become carbon neutral by the end of the decade. This isn't another government initiative, and it isn't like what the other states are doing. This challenge includes no mandates, no regulations, and no pressure for any individual company or producer to change what we are already doing. Rather, it sends a clear message to the federal government and other states that North Dakota can reach the end goal faster with innovation and free markets without the heavy hand of government mandates. Okay, so why this is interesting, why this is strange, in my opinion, because he's talking there about nationalism. He's talking about sovereignty. But at the same time, meeting some arbitrary carbon neutral goal that was laid out in the Sustainable Development Goals. So I don't know what to think about that guy, other than to say he's a businessman and he sees an opportunity for either profit or power, both. I don't know. It's going to be hard to see, but there you go.
Well, there's a lot of people talking about that, certainly, that, that it's not a good sign, because we don't want to be doing anything as far as involved with carbon credits.
Yeah, carbon sequestration was another part of something that he is really pushing. That's the way we talked about it yesterday. Capturing the carbon and storing it, which we believe that's a scam for another time. Mm-hmm. O'Fallon says, if you look up the term Fabian Republican, this man's picture and name should be the image next to the definition. Utah's former governor, Mike, leave it. Leave it. All right, so there's that. There's the tweet about Mike Waltz's wife. Kristi Noem is going to be take the role of Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. So she'll be over FEMA. And here's the one I think is just this. I hope the stream's doing all right, because I just keep getting these alerts that
it looks fine on my end.
I just can't take any more of it. It's just don't know what's going on.
It's trying to psych you out.
Yeah. Let me just turn these
bells off.
Yeah, just turn that all on.
Brad's frustrated. He's been working so hard, so many hours trying to work the gremlins out of the studio, and it's just been madness.
Yeah. Yeah, it hasn't worked, obviously. I don't want that thing to keep.
Del Griffith says, audio was cutting out. Let me refresh. I don't see any freezing or anything, though, through the feed.
Well, he says, Trump says, he's likely to pick Senator Marco Rubio from Florida as his Secretary of State. Might change his mind, it says here. CNN reports Trump set his sights on Rubio after initially favoring former acting director of national intelligence, Rick Grinnell. Anyway, here's what I wanted to show you. Here's what Trump said about Rubio back in 2015. He said, Marco Rubio is a total lightweight who I wouldn't hire to run one of my smaller companies. Highly overrated politician. And this person responds to it. He's also an Israel asset, whatever that means. Yeah, so interesting. Let's hear him.
5 days ago, we began to explain to the American people that Donald Trump is a con artist. The party of Lincoln and Reagan and the presidency of the United States will never be held by a con artist. Friends, do not let friends vote for con artists. And friends, don't let friends vote for con artists.
I can just tell you that a con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it. There is no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
5 days ago, we began to explain to the American people that Donald Trump is a con artist, the party of Lincoln and Reagan.
Well, let's just hire him for, let's hire him for, what was it? Secretary of State. Yeah, let's make him Secretary of State. Well, that makes sense. Okay, well, how about Trump's border czar? Now, this is the guy that caught.
He seems pretty cool.
Well, he seems like, yeah, like that.
He's ready to get it done.
I'll tell you what, this is crazy because I had all those. Here we go. Here he is.
He's fiery.
Yeah, he's going up against AOC here. Let's listen to him. So this is Tom Homan, who will be joining the Trump administration, former ICE director. So he is going to be the man over the border. I don't know why we call him czars.
I know. I don't like that at all.
So here we go.
3 different options presented. The third included the option for family separation. This initiative would pursue prosecution of all amenable adults, including those presenting with a family unit. Mr. Homan, your name is on this. Is this correct?
Yes, I signed that memo.
So you are the author of the family separation policy?
I am not the author of this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on for the United States to pursue family separation.
I gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Yeah.
Zero tolerance was interpreted
She didn't know what to do.
as a policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way.
And you go to the nearest country, right? You don't cross 6 or 7 countries.
Yeah, you don't get to come through
nearest.
14 countries just to seek asylum over in the U.S.
AOC is overmatched here. And there's another, I wonder if we could find that clip where he is... You remember the clip where they're having to call him down? Yeah, he's pretty fired up here.
First of all, your comments are disgusting. I've served my country.
I've served my country for 34 years.
I find your comments
this is out of
disgusting
control.
as well.
I've served my country for 34 years. And yes, I held a 5-year-old boy in my arms in back of that tractor trailer. I knelt down beside him and said a prayer for him because I knew what his last 30 minutes of his life were like. And I had a 5-year-old son at the time. What I've been trying to do my 34 years serving my nation is to save lives. So for you to sit there and insult my integrity and my love for my country and for children, that's why this whole thing needs to be fixed. And you're the member of Congress.
We agree on that.
Fix it.
We agree on that, but I disagree. But I also disagree with your characterization of immigrants as prone to criminality.
People for 3 decades on this.
Gentlemen, time is.
Look, you want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror. You have failed American people for not securing the border and closing loopholes.
Mr. Homan.
So it makes sense now. If you've seen in the news where they're saying, or actually not the news, it was Larry Taunton, who was reporting. He went to Mexico City and he's been down there several times to report on migrants coming up through Mexico and coming to the border. And he said they're turning around and going back the other way because this guy. And in fact, I think the message from Kamala was, "Yeah, don't come anymore."
Look,
Please respect the chair and the authority of the chair. The time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Homan. He don't get me go beyond his time.
Mr. Homan,
she's going to break the desk.
Approved an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats with the ranking member. We increased the time of one witness, one member of Congress
Mr. Homan,
who was interrupted by a protest. That is done with the approval of the ranking member. Please respect the chair's authority.
I respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Homan!
You work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
Thank you.
So the recommendation of the many that you recommended family separation.
Okay, so that's, there's Tom Homan. He's
controversial.
Mm-hmm. To say the least.
Offend anybody tonight? I don't give a shit.
Whoa!
How many pounds of fentanyl didn't make in this country to kill Americans? How many known suspected terrorists didn't make it in the country? How many billions of dollars did the cartels make? President Trump is one badass president. He secured the border at a level we've never seen before. And I got a message to the millions of illegal aliens that have been released into the United States under this administration. Don't get too comfortable. We're going to need some help. Do I have any volunteers that want to come back and help run the biggest deportation operation in the history of this nation? In January of 25, the greatest president of my lifetime walking back in the White House. He tells me we got, I say 120 days. He says, no, you got 60 to lock the border down. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I told the president. He comes back, I come back, we fix this shit.
Strong. Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, you know what this is setting up, of course. It's totally like, this is a human rights crisis.
Did you hear the message Did you hear the message?
We're all counting on you.
Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Yeah.
Airplane. Yeah. Best movie of all time. But it's like human rights. They're gonna cry about human rights.
If President Trump wins, that people are going to see very different President Trump than they did during the first term. I think he's changed as a person, and I've known him for 30 years. I've sued him, I've litigated against him, and had a friendship with him even when I was litigating against him. And by the way, successfully against him. But I think he is. He's focused on his legacy. He said many interesting things to me about what he did wrong the last time.
And basically he's talking about the fact that he's surrounded by, first time he's surrounded by, well, he didn't know. He didn't know his way around the swamp yet. And you know what? I don't know. We'll see what happens with this, but it's not only that. Let's see, where were we here? It's not only that. Let's move ahead here to, I just love this Rubio deal here. They hated each other. Now, why don't you come work for me? Okay, now, there's an autism study put out by, oh boy, what was it? Yeah, Dr. Haitham Amal, head of the Department of Laboratory of Neuromics, Cell Signaling, and Translational Medicine at Hebrew University of Jerusalem. They solved the problem. The autism mystery.
The autism mystery. Are you ready, guys? Are you ready?
Solved.
Here
you go. Here's the answer. It's air pollution. Air pollution breathed in by women during pregnancy. You see that November 12th, this was released. Polluted air that women breathe in while pregnant may be linked to a greater risk of a child developing autism, according to new research. You don't need to go much deeper than that because this is...
So let's just not talk about the jabbies.
No, we don't have to talk about the jabbies. Let's listen to this little piece right here.
Shock link as they reveal states in the U.S. that are now most at risk after cases in children and young adults have nearly tripled. And what is this bombshell? What are they saying is the cause? Air pollution breathed in by women during pregnancy may be linked to a greater risk of child developing autism, according to new research. A review of the latest literature has found babies with a genetic predisposition to autism exposed to 4 common air pollutants were more likely to develop the condition. And look at this, almost word for word, what RFK has been pointing out for years. Autism rates have been rising across the world, they say, over the past few decades.
And nobody can deny that. But the question is why? And this is not why.
No, that's not why.
This is not why. This is somebody trying to get out ahead of the why coming out. And I think, over on Patreon, we've got a video and an article there.
Well, what this justifies... Sorry, go ahead.
What?
Oh, I was just going to say that we know that that they've already privatized the water around the world, I think pretty much fully.
Yeah.
And they want to control the water. And so they're doing this whole campaign about there's all these microplastics. And whether or not that's true, here's your newest boogeyman in town to justify why they want to do this state-of-the-art overhaul of all of our water systems, which therefore will make water extremely expensive. Because in what I've always seen in the reports that they don't hide is water will be the new gold. And when you also talk about it, they're putting in people's minds that the air that you breathe gives you autism. Well, then everybody, first of all, in the movies, how many times have you seen people going around in gas masks? So that's sort of, a dystopian nod. And then also there's probably going to be, some sort of, you can't drive your cars anymore, guys. You can't fly anymore on those planes, guys, because, the air, you don't want to hurt your child. You don't want to have a baby that develops autism because of the air that's polluted. So see how this works? It's just setting them up for the next, for the carbon market.
That's right. Yeah. That adds into the climate, narrative. We'll call it here narrative. As you watch this killer robot here, how do you possibly?
That thing is freaky.
I'm thinking maybe a aluminum bat. I'm thinking an aluminum bat, maybe a net. You throw a net over it. Look at that.
Yeah, I guess that's more energy efficient because it doesn't have to hover.
Yeah, look at that. Fun, huh?
Well, read what it says about it, though.
Are you still unvaxxed? Well, there you go.
Yeah, because they've got that AI technology called Haystack where they can find you in rural areas.
Coming for you.
Through satellite.
Yeah, come on. I don't know about all this stuff. That's... I really think a aluminum baseball bat would probably take him out. Maybe not.
I'm just saying they're priming us, getting us ready for, a whole new system of charges and restrictions on privileges.
All right, let's jump back in now to RFK. That was the autism part. Now he's talking about fluoride in the water. Now I wanted you to hear a little bit about this because he's talking here about the this was some information about the Amish community who went. Who their children are unjabbed. They're not on the regular schedule of 70-some vaccinations now that you must receive before you're 7 or 10 years old. Something just ridiculous. But if it wasn't related to that, then the Amish community should have been, they breathe the same air, so they should have been, their children should have been autistic at about the same rate. But they had almost none. Almost none. All right?
That's because they don't know how to tell the truth.
And it's not just autism. Autism has dropped from 1 in 10,000 in my generation to 1 in 34 in my kids' generation.
It's crazy.
So it's become way more common. But I wanted to get to this point here about fluoride in the water. This is really interesting because
this is a tweet from you. I'm noticing this 23.5 million views. Let me just read your tweet back to you. On January 20th, the Trump White House will advise all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride from public water, period. Fluoride is an industrial waste associated with arthritis, bone fractures, bone cancer, IQ loss, neurodevelopmental disorders, and thyroid disease.
You heard right there. Kennedy admitted right there that fluoride is an industrial waste. It's a byproduct of the production of steel, bauxite.
Steel, I think it was. But you know what? It's a floor wax and a dessert topping. So you
There
can
you
put
go.
it in your mouth. And you can drink it.
Disease. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump want to make America healthy again. I mean, that just caused, 23.5 million people thought it was pretty great. The news media hated it. Is that part of what you're talking about?
It's interesting because there was a case that was handed down on October 4th on fluoride, and it was an Obama-appointed judge, a federal judge. And it was brought to challenge EPA for never having done safety studies.
It's aluminum. It's the production of aluminum. Fluoride used in fluoridation is often derived as a byproduct from industrial processes, particularly those involving phosphate fertilizers and aluminum production, the type of fluoride compounds added to drinking water. So it is. It's a byproduct. I mean, they're all worried about CO2, but not so much worried about fluoride, about this waste that they're putting in the water for some reason. Now,
But people are just treating it like, oh, there's these big reveals happening and things are coming to light.
yeah, I had the link here.
It's crazy.
Let me see if I don't know. I had a link of where RFK was talking to Tucker there, and he said, I don't know, maybe it's, I don't think it's this. Let me just do a quick search. RFK, Tucker, fluoride. Looking for a short. Looking for a short, like a little short video. Under 4 minutes, let's do that. Wow, here we go.
Fluoride was put in the water in the 1940s. It was put in the water to stop tooth decay. But now it's recognized that most of our mouthwashes and toothpastes have fluoride in them, and you don't need fluoride in the water. Fluoride was put in the water.
So, yeah. And what do they tell you about your mouthwash and your toothpaste, especially if you get something like Floridex, something that's got more fluoride in it for whatever reason? Don't swallow it. Rinse. Don't swallow it. Don't swallow it. Don't swallow it. But, let's just put it in the drinking water so everyone will swallow it. Now, that they knew this back then.
Washes and toothpastes have fluoride in them, and you don't need fluoride in the water. And it's a very inefficient way of preventing tooth decay because you're getting it in people's blood. And as it turns out, fluoride is very, very dangerous. It causes IQ loss. There are extensive studies that show if you put fluoride in water at double the rate that EPA now allows, that is in all of our water systems that use it in this country, that it causes dramatic IQ loss in children with cancer. It causes arthritis, and it causes the deterioration of bones.
Okay, here's my question. Why is it so hard for RFK? He's saying all these other things. Why is it so hard for him to admit that fluoride was added to the water not to deal with tooth decay? Why would they do that? It was put in the water specifically for the purposes that he's mentioned, specifically the neurotoxin that it is, for reducing IQ, making people more docile, because as it was maybe John D. Rockefeller was famous for saying, I don't want a nation of educated people. I want a nation of people who, workers. It's not a secret. Fluoride is not to be ingested. It's always been known. So adding it to the water to fight tooth decay, that's a preposterous notion. I mean, of course, that's the one that was put forward, and that's the one he's repeating there. But Here's the official narrative on fluoride. If you're just curious about, it's been now on Patreon, we have a video and an article, and with, I don't know, over 40 references about the vaccine schedule, and there's also one there about fluoride and, you know, being able to, about critical thinking and how you can decide for yourself whether this is a good thing or not. But the addition of fluoride to drinking water in the United States began as a part of a public health initiative to reduce tooth decay. This is official narrative, right? Because it was a costly health problem in the early 20th century. That's it. And it emerged from studies in the 1930s that found a correlation between naturally occurring fluoride in water and lower rates of dental caries, or known as cavities, in certain populations. And that led to the idea of, hey, let's put it in the water and help our citizens out, because they'll drink it and swallow it. All right. Studies, one of them in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 1945, making the first official citywide fluoridation of drinking water. It was led by Dr. H. Trindley Dean of the U.S. Public Health Service, who observed that communities with natural fluoride levels around 1 part per million had significantly fewer cases of tooth decay and much lower IQs, bone diseases, eventually. Now, of course, there's been opposition to this. The problem is, adding fluoride to water, number one, violates individual autonomy. These people didn't decide they wanted to drink fluoride, given that it's a mass treatment, that affects everyone. It's the one-size-fits-all treatment. That's what's become popular today. Everyone must get the jab. Other health risks, of course. Although the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the American Dental Association have consistently endorsed fluoridation as a safe and beneficial practice, despite the research to the contrary. But it became widespread in the United States in the 1950s, and it's continued to expand. And what Kennedy said is true, right? We have toothpaste, we have mouthwashes, we can use fluoride without drinking it, without ingesting it, right? There's no reason to do that. By the way, the fluoride molecule is just a bit different than the molecule of fluoxetine, which was, that's Prozac. That's the generic name or the chemical name for Prozac.
Docile.
Yeah.
Make you docile. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there's not microplastics in the water and stuff like that, but, it's like the classic problem, reaction, solution, that they would let things get so bad that then, they've got to do this thing to come and save us again. And so we're dependent. Once again, we need them to save us.
National Toxicology Program a study from the National Toxicology Program suggested that high levels of fluoride exposure can have neurotoxic effects, particularly for children. Few studies have found associations between high fluoride levels and reduced IQ in children.
It's giving us the bell.
So every now and then it just says it's disconnected and reconnecting. I have knows. But here's a big problem. It's one of those endocrine disruptors. We talked about those when the train crashed in East Palestine, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And we talked about other areas of the country that had been pretty much rendered unlivable because of endocrine disruptors, chemicals, paints, solvents that had in one case they had sprayed it on the roads.
Yeah.
But fluoride also is an endocrine disruptor. It will interfere with endocrine function, particularly the thyroid. So high fluoride intake has been associated with reduced thyroid function. And isn't it interesting, that hypothyroidism is very common in people over 50 years old in the in the U.S. So that's why they're given Synthroid and, drugs to help regulate the thyroid, underactive thyroid, which leads to symptoms like, fatigue, you fall asleep all the time, weight gain, depression. Some studies suggest that fluoride may alter thyroid hormone production. And of course, bone fracture risk, kidney and liver disease, and, as he said, cognitive behavioral concerns. But you will still hear people out there defend putting fluoride in the water as though anyone who questions it is a crazy conspiracy theorist. But he says something else here at the end. Listen to this. I thought this was really interesting.
Thyroid injuries, it also calcifies the pineal gland of the human brain, which is the part of our brain that actually creates our spiritual feelings. It's
really? Our spiritual feelings.
I'll replay that.
Injuries, it also calcifies the pineal gland of the human brain, which is the part of our brain that actually creates our spiritual feelings.
Okay, so he said...
Otherwise known as your third eye.
Right. He says that it will calcify the pineal gland in the brain, which he said is responsible for giving us our spiritual feelings. Okay. This is a big one, right? This is one that you hear a lot in the New Age movement. Is there... Now, I don't know. It seems like Kennedy's trying to do a good thing here, but I don't think you need to go quite that far. The pineal gland is a small endocrine structure. Also, isn't it interesting, though, that all of these things, that how severe fluoride is as an endocrine disruptor. And most of the problems that you see in Americans health-wise have to do with thyroid. It has to do with endocrine disorders. But the pineal gland it's a tiny gland. And it's intrigued researchers for centuries because it's mysterious. It does have unique properties, and it's at a part in the brain that's very difficult to get to and study unless you're dead. As Summer said, it's often known, referred to as the third eye. But I guess because it's at about this, you can see on the picture there, it's at about eye level and it's in the middle of the brain, but it's really not like right behind here or anything. It's just way back here. But it's primarily responsible. What does it really do? Well, it helps in regulating circadian rhythms by secreting melatonin. That's the hormone that signals the body when it's time to sleep. Pineal gland is believed to respond to the absence of light, somehow receiving signals from the brain, or the occipital lobe, which is in the back of the brain here, as you can see under the word. There you go. That works, right? Generally, in this area of the brain is where vision is, I don't know how you would say it, rendered. That's where it takes place. This is visual cortex, I guess we would call it. And so perhaps there's a signal from this area to here that signals that it's dark or the sun's going down or whatever. So it helps regulate circadian rhythms and helps to promote sleep and wakefulness. But it's also got this mystical reputation over time. It was philosopher René Descartes who famously referred to it as the seat of the soul, a place where he thought mind and body intersected. However, there is no empirical support for this. It's not aligned with any contemporary neurological science as well. But it doesn't stop people from speculating. Some mystical and esoteric traditions continue to ascribe spiritual or metaphysical qualities to this pineal gland. But this is all speculation. There's no real evidence to this. But it's also... What role does it play, right? Even though there's limited evidence, people still believe in this, that it's because it is indirectly involved in processes that can influence feelings or perceptions. For instance, melatonin and its metabolites are implicated in mood regulation and can produce a sense of well-being. Some people may interpret that as spiritually significant somehow. Isn't that interesting that they always seem to associate well-being and good experiences with spiritual experiences, but they very rarely associate negative experiences with spiritual experiences.
Right, like doing Kundalini yoga and how that is known through lots and lots of research, how people become, completely unstable because of that and the demonic oppression that happens. And
yeah, we have a video right here on this channel, a short 20-minute video about transcendental meditation, which would be in the same field as
right.
Kundalini yoga, about how you never hear about how dangerous it really is.
Yeah, and even in this corporate communist system, they want to recommend that everybody do yoga and all this stuff like meditation and yoga. So it's actually recommended in your health insurance and, as a way to decompress. And there's all these apps. I mean, it's a giant industry. So,
So there's also DMT, the spirit molecule, right? They talk about that in relation to the pineal gland. DMT, dimethyltryptamine. They believe that it might be produced in the brain and that if it might be produced in the pineal gland. Again, they don't know for sure, but they believe it might be. Because the only way to find out for sure would be to cut someone's brain open when it's happening. And that's, I don't know if they've done that yet. Maybe they have. I don't know. Things are getting weird. What is DMT? It's a powerful psychedelic substance that can induce profound, often mystical experiences when it's administered. And you can see when this is ayahuasca. DMT is in ayahuasca. So here's the link between the pineal gland and ayahuasca, or they smoke DMT as well, to basically trip completely out and go into a completely altered state of consciousness.
Right. So you can see this sort of like subtle endorsement of this new age sort of religion that they want to initiate everybody into and sort of normalize and get everybody like, oh yeah, I want cleaner water so that my pineal gland is open. And
that's what I was.
You know what I mean?
That's one of the reasons I wanted to do these topics tonight, because right after this, I'm going to talk about Trump with they say he's gonna reveal all of the UFO secrets, and so there are none. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, as the UFO narrative really just reinforces Darwinian evolution, right? And this particular narrative, it wants to suggest that there's a way we can induce spiritual experiences, that really spiritual experiences come from within us. That's the problem with this. And, that's all speculative, and it all stands in direct opposition to what the Bible tells us is true.
Yeah, and can I just mention that this does sound an awful lot like Alice Bailey and Theosophy, and what we know that their charter has been for the United Nations and all of this. So, like, it still has that odor, like it smells like this worldview that wants to get you on board with Darwinianism and, meditation and you becoming your own God, right? Very humanistic.
Yeah.
Very Blavatsky.
So one of the other claims that RFK made there was that it calcifies the pineal gland.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a little bit of evidence for this. It's partially supported by research because, calcification is the accumulation of calcium crystals, calcium phosphate crystals in some part of the body. It's wherever it might be. And it is known through, autopsies and pathology that the pineal gland is one of the organs that seems to absorb and hold on to these fluoride metabolites more than any other organ. research shows, anyway, that the pineal gland accumulates more fluoride than other parts of the body. That has led to speculation that fluoride might accelerate its calcification. But again, there's no way to know this. This is really speculative. Jennifer Luke in 2001, Dr. Jennifer Luke, did a study that found that the pineal gland is a major site of fluoride accumulation, leading to some to argue that these fluoride levels could influence pineal function by promoting calcification. But nobody knows what this accumulation of fluoride in the pineal gland actually means or causes. They just realized that it was there. But nevertheless, if you search pineal gland and New Age and calcification, you're going to find people who are going to sell you all kinds of remedies to decalcify your pineal gland. They'll teach you how to do certain meditations to decalcify your pineal gland. What we really know is that the pineal gland it regulates melatonin. It helps you with your circadian rhythms, sleep and wake cycles. And there's really no verified link to mysticism or spiritual feelings at all. So I wish if RFK wants to, if he wants to make a difference, just stick to the stuff you can prove. There's plenty of stuff you can prove.
But see, it's a religion.
Yeah, and I think that he's a Roman Catholic, but when they're very friendly with New Age, I think Roman Catholics are just about as charismatic as any.
Right, but also,
Protestant.
but it's the Roman Catholics who've got that Pope, right, who makes all of those statements about how important climate change is.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so now, Trump has met with the Pleiadians, and they have agreed on an agenda. Right? Well, no. Here's Representative Tim Burchett. I believe he's from Tennessee. And Tim Burchett he's a great guy, I think, but he is so deceived by this UAP, this UFO phenomenon.
You mentioning that, I do want to.
He's been the one who has been leading the what do you call them? The hearings, the congressional hearings, where they listen to UFO whistleblowers. Let me remind you, no one has ever produced any evidence, any hard evidence. You cannot prove this in a court of law. It's just not something that's, and as we've put, you'll find many videos here pointing out the fact that there are no aliens. They don't exist. And we can say that definitively, and that makes some people mad, but you have to decide what worldview you're going to hold. Are you going to hold a biblical worldview, or are you going to hold some other worldview that has holes in it?
And we were talking about this, we were talking about this earlier tonight about the whole idea of aliens too, that they're real. That's like doctrines of demons. I mean, truly, because, you want to, a lot of people believe that they visit with aliens at night, or that they go and they're taken away, that they're channeling, the Pleiadian channelings, the Hicks, Esther Hicks, a lot of this kind of stuff, like people believe that they're in contact with beings from another planet. Doctrines of demons. So, but really my theory too is, like, not only is it about the links with Blavatsky and this New Age do as thou wilt religion that they want to initiate the world into, but I think it's also very practical in that they want to justify the total surveillance of the skies. So, they want to have everything on lockdown as far as you're not allowed to be, flying or driving or, you know what I mean? So it's about surveillance. It's an excuse to get all of those satellites up in the sky for the, Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Representative Burchett says that Trump will be the disclosure president. He said, quote, "In my conversations with the president-elect, I am convinced that's what he wants and that he trusts the American public." All right. Burchett says that Tim Gallaudet, I guess that's his name, has very compelling evidence to share at the upcoming UAP hearing. Very compelling evidence. Okay, let's see it. Let's really see it. Let's see what he says here.
Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee, he introduced the UAP Transparency Act. You will be at this hearing. I appreciate you taking the time tonight.
Thank you, ma'am.
I want to start with what you expect to hear this Wednesday. Do you think that Americans will learn new information about UAPs, or are you expecting massive revelations on Wednesday?
That's tomorrow.
I think we're going to learn some things. It's peeling back the layers of an onion. The one thing I think that will happen eventually is President Trump will move towards total disclosure.
See, this just bugs me.
I know, it's
total
so
disclosure.
Ridiculous.
Listen, the UFO, UAP narrative is the best friend that the national security state has ever had, because it gives them just a constant cloak for whatever they might be working on. It also gives them an excuse for when things are flying around in our atmosphere that are from Russia, China, or wherever that shouldn't be here. It gives them an excuse. Maybe that was from Zeta Reticuli. No, man. No, it's from here, and it's from someone who's spying on us, because there are all kinds of drones now. And the idea is you send one of these drones, and it might be disposable. You send it out into one of these areas around the battleships or into a certain area near a border, and it's out there absorbing all the signals that are in the air, and then they can determine what kind of security that you have in this area. And they say that these things, you'll hear in a minute, or they say that they defy the laws of physics, and they don't defy the laws of physics. They've never seen one defy the laws of physics. That's just something they say, because all you've ever seen are things shot through a potato, things on screens that
are blurry, coming in and out of focus.
It's kind of like Bigfoot. He's just a blurry. He's just a blurry creature.
The camera's always shaking.
Yeah, let's listen to this one.
There is a UAP hearing this week on the 13th.
Yes,
what can we expect?
Well, Nancy Mason's going to chair it, and she's got no filter. She's a buddy of mine. And I love the fact that she's going to be pulling the deal on this. I'd asked her, I would hope that she would be able to do that. I'm too much of a lightning rod, oddly enough. But I think you're going to get some more information. But the truth is, it's never going to come to an end until we have an executive in the White House who trusts the American public with that information. And I believe Donald Trump is that person. I believe he's for disclosure. In my conversations with him and the people around him, I believe that will come to pass. We're talking about the Kennedy assassinations, things like that happened. I'm 60 years old.
See, the dream team of conspiracy busters. That's what we've got now, folks. Everything is going to be known. That's what
they just need to reveal Dogman.
Exactly. Until they
UFOs.
Until they come clean about Dogman, I'm not listening to anything.
Who's really just Anubis.
That's right.
It's like the 21st century debut of Anubis. Dogman.
Yeah. Yeah, here he is, and when he was talking to Rogan.
Yes.
And I know you're interested in that.
Oh, very interested in that. How much did they tell you about that?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah.
What did they tell you? How much can you tell?
So
how's that work? Is it like super top secret?
I can tell,
Tell me.
Well, based on Hunter Biden, I can say whatever the hell I want, right? But no. But I interviewed a few people. It's never been my thing, I have to be honest. I have never been a believer. I have people that...
It's because he's just a rational guy. There's no evidence for the stuff, so I don't really believe in it because it's not there.
Area 51 or whatever it is. Area 51 in Las Vegas. Do you know that, right?
Sure, I know what it is.
So anyway, but it's a big tourist thing. So I interviewed jet pilots that say they saw something. If you saw
now again, the assumption to that statement is that these pilots saw with their naked eye something in the atmosphere. That's not ever the case. They're almost always wearing optics of some kind. And we've shown you. You've seen them here, right? You've seen the big declassified videos. Mm-hmm. That's what they saw. That's what they saw. It was stuff like that. Mick West, if you look up Mick West on YouTube or Twitter, he's a guy who has just methodically gone through and just debunked all of it. All of it. There's good explanations for all of it, but there are so many believers, true believers, that it just won't die. And here's one of them. That's, what was Mike Waltz being? National Security Advisor. This man has been picked as the National Security Advisor. Let's see what he says about something that doesn't exist.
Back to UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call it. I think we need to take this incredibly seriously.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask to...
Now look, let's stop right there. I agree. You should take it very seriously because it is actually a threat. Whatever's there is actually a threat. Whether it's physical things from another nation, from an enemy who wants to, or maybe not even an enemy. Maybe the UK wants to spy on it. Maybe it's a friend that wants to spy on us. But so I think it's a good idea to take it. It's a good idea to take it seriously for that reason, and because of the fact that the non-physical element,
right?
They are, in many cases, what people describe are demonic encounters.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, demonic encounters. But this whole thing, because I always look at things from the 80,000 foot view, the macro, and
up there where the UFOs are.
Yeah, man, and I'm always thinking about that movie Stargate, you know, where they travel through the wormhole and they come to this planet, and all the people there are thinking that there's these advanced creatures that are like aliens, and they're scared of them, and then it turns out that they're just people. You know, this is what this feels like. It's like they're trying to convince everybody that there's going to be like a landing and there's going to be contact, and then we're going to be, you know, in the movies they prime it like, you know, they're at the United Nations and there's a flag for the aliens and we saved the planet together. You know,
well,
I think they really want to make this happen, like, you know, like a Hollywood version in the hyperreal.
It's a truth that can be known.
War of the Worlds.
It doesn't have to be a mystery. It's a truth that can be known. And if you hold a biblical worldview, you know the truth. And that way you will never be deceived by any kind of landing, any kind of big alien disclosure. You will never be deceived by that if you're holding a biblical worldview.
That's right. And it really is priming, guys, you know, because when I was in high school and stuff, I used to go to UFO forum meetings. I did too. But it's funny when I think back on that, like what was happening at those meetings is like afterwards when you hung out with the people, they were actually occultists and they wanted to go do channeling sessions. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you were like channeling entities and stuff like this. So, and it wasn't aliens. It wasn't aliens.
Let's listen to what the future National Security Advisor does say here about. This is Mike Waltz. Remember, he's the one whose wife had that World Economic Forum page.
For a briefing and sit down of what this whistleblower is alleging. But basically, to boil it down, is Congress directed the Pentagon to put together an interagency task force across the intelligence community to look at all of these anomalies, these strange objects that are doing things that we can't explain, that are defying physics. And this individual is saying that...
Okay. Claims. I like when people make claims, I like to listen to their claims. Let's hear. He made a couple claims right here.
These anomalies, these strange objects that are doing things that we can't explain, that are defying physics.
Okay. Nothing physical is out there defying physics. If it defies the laws of physics and you can see it with your naked eye, you can perceive it, because it doesn't work to have it on some sort of optics that are used for ballistics or for tracking aircraft or things like that. That doesn't work, because those are subject to either manipulation or artifacts or error. So they're not a good source. You need just an open video camera. There are some videos of those things, but never. And they defy the laws of physics. So those things that do defy the laws of physics, then if it's actually there and it's defying the law of physics, then it's a demonic encounter. Because there are many cases where people see these things and they apparently crash into the ground, and they go there and they might even see a burnt spot in the ground or a hole in the ground. Nothing else is there. That's a demonic encounter.
Well, even Star Wars movies were doing hologram projections of things. I mean, look at what they do, like for New Year's,
Project,
like some of those New Year's celebrations. You know, like think about what they could actually, with drones, like what they could actually pull off. I'm sure
this was Project Bluebeam. Was people will remember Project Bluebeam, which was
they could totally pull off something that would be like
the idea
really
idea there was
convincing.
That it would be something that was projected into the sky through holographic technology where people would just see these, or the second coming or something like that. Again, if you're holding a biblical worldview, you'll never be fooled by any of that.
Exactly.
And this individual is saying that through that process, he found compartmented programs that weren't being considered by the congressionally mandated.
So let me just tell, okay, so there's a claim. They've got these programs. They've got crash retrieval programs. Never been proven that there's actual crash retrieval programs.
Hey, so, give us money. We need money. We need funding for the research, guys.
Okay, so that's a good point.
More money.
If you go to Stephen Greenstreet, you go to his Twitter, his X account, that's where you want to go if you want to find out the truth about this, because he's the journalist who has done the work. And he's written articles. He's done videos. You can go to his on YouTube. It's part of it's on the New York Post YouTube channel. He's got his own playlist there, and it explained to you very plainly: werewolves, ghosts, and goblins, a $22 million Pentagon program. It goes off the rails. So yes, it was about money to one degree, but there's also true believers scattered through all this. Now, we've done videos on this. I don't want to go too deep into it now about how we've debunked it, but you can check out.
Satan loves any kind of plan where you're focused on anything other than the gospel and Jesus Christ, and
that's how we determine what is a doctrine of demons. Exactly. An actual bombshell of disclosure about government secrecy and the cover-up of an alien crash retrieval program.
UFOs exist of non-human origin.
High-level U.S. intelligence officer who says the government has some of the unidentified craft in its possession.
We have spacecraft from another species. Yeah. You're kidding.
No.
Is he having a laugh?
I thought it was totally nuts. You having a laugh? News Nation has confirmed David Grush's credentials and resume.
We've not seen or verified the alleged proof he says he's provided to investigators.
Lies.
Can't show us the proof.
Conspiracy theories. For national security reasons.
Junk science.
He's not seen photos of the alleged craft himself.
And wholesale fiction.
But has talked extensively with other intelligence officials.
We control them.
Who have.
And we can remake them.
It gets creepier.
Putin just shot down one of these Tic Tacs and collected it. So,
are you having a laugh?
Real UFOs that are extra dimensional in nature.
By the way, this is John D'Souza. This guy has been on Redacted half a dozen times. And that's because he's a former, I think, FBI agent. And he was one of the consultants to the the X-Files. Show. So they love this guy. And listen to what he's saying here. You can judge for yourself. Is this man telling the truth, or is he just full of it?
Have the ability to dematerialize.
Are you having a laugh?
Extra dimensional. Okay? They're not physical. I mean, they're not fully physical.
Is he having a laugh?
Like I said, people just really need to read my book so they have a background in what's real and what's not. Why are the good aliens here helping us all the time?
The good aliens.
UAP. You see that there's a dog there. You see the animals are black. I'm assuming this is black hot. You see the object just went to white, and you'll see it going from white to black. White, like hot and cold, hot and cold.
Watch what happens here as this object changes colors. Oh, there it goes to black. So does the ground. Right, so it's not the object shifting in shade. It's the camera adjusting. Now look, see, there it is again. Now the object is a light colored, so because it's a balloon.
Yeah, that's expected for something over 1,000 feet in the air that's not rising or falling. It just moves with the air.
So there's no turbulent forces acting on it that would make it move around. In the video, we briefly see a flag fluttering in the wind. Isolating it, we can see that it is blowing to the left, to the west, in the same direction the object is traveling.
Consistent with that object being a balloon.
Some people noted that the object seems to get hotter and colder, darker and lighter in the infrared. But if you look at the background, you'll see that that changes in sync with the object, which means it's just the camera adjusting the exposure and not actually a temperature change.
Oh, we can't explain them, man. You
There
can't
are
explain
also
it.
reports that it was only visible to the thermal sensor and was not visible to the naked eye. But then it was dark and over 1,000 feet up, so that's hardly surprising. So what does this initial analysis tell us? Well, if there were some odd-shaped balloons, maybe a few balloons covered with some streamers or other decorations, and the wind at 1,800 feet was just 10 miles per hour from the east, then this is what you would see. An ultra-terrestrial, non-human intelligence jellyfish-like creature? No, the ordinary balloons are a very common source of airborne clutter.
So this is the 29 Palms Triangle.
George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell finally released the footage of a UFO filmed by military personnel at 29 Palms, California on April 20th, 2021. It showed 5 lights that started out in a nice triangle formation.
Evidence.
They said they were not flares, but a lot of people thought they looked like flares. And flares can actually hang around for several minutes. There were some claims that this low-light image showed a triangular craft, but that's really just the color bleed, which you can see around other objects in the scene. John Greenwald discovered that there was a big military exercise at that location on that night, with a lot going on and a lot of things in the air, including flares. John found footage of 5 flares that looked very similar. I realized this looked like it was taken from the other side, so I flipped it and overlaid it, and it's a near perfect match. Given the coincidences with date and location and the fact that these lights look and act like flares, then I think we can safely say that these are the actual flares that were misidentified as a UFO.
Folks, this is what Congress is wasting their time and your money on. This is what Timbershed is determined to uncover, right? This is disclosure.
We didn't find evidence of anything extraterrestrial. No
That guy's
such
long hair.
non-human biologics. Remember, when someone says something is a non-human biologic, that could be a dog, that could be an insect.
I am John D'Souza. I am FBI Special Agent retired because I have left the FBI, but I'm trying to teach people on all these esoteric topics how to do their own investigation and find out what's really going on out there. Now that we're living in a time of complete and total deception.
UFO narrative is a lie of the most insidious kind. The facts are being withheld on purpose, and that is how you know they're manipulating you. Let the reader understand this gibberish UFO story is actually a blessing. For all the credentials and vouching for the whistleblower and for all the outright wasting of everyone's time. In one of those interesting kindnesses of God where the adversary's tactic backlashes on his scaly noggin, the story is doing us all a great service in exposing exactly who you can and cannot trust, to do real research, to actually care about you, the viewer. In the mainstream media, it's pretty obvious who you can't trust. It's a sweep. But now we're being shown exactly who from the alternative media,
That right?
podcasters,
That right,
YouTubers,
Summer?
who will run with anything that gets some clicks, engagement, more ad revenue. I mean, any pundit, talking head,
Redacted?
podcast host, from News Nation to Clayton Morrison Redacted, anyone who is covering this story as if it is a real news story and presenting it to you as though it were an actual bombshell of disclosure about government secrecy and the cover-up of an alien crash retrieval program is either not too bright, flat out lying, or worse, they don't care one bit about you and whether or not you receive good and meaningful information. How do you demoralize a story? Separate them from God. One way you can start doing that is have something crash in the desert that looks like it might be
non-human origin.
All right. Hey, how about some applause? Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. That's an Armor of Truth exclusive. So there you go. It's not real, folks. Don't fall for it. It's an easy way to draw people in to nonsense. Here's one of our articles on Substack about this issue. It's called Appetite for Distraction. And it's all about this topic. This is one of those 5,000 word deals where we went into great detail about the cult nature of this movement as it runs through our government. And the fact that a real bona fide UFO religion has infiltrated the United States government and has sent elected leaders on a wild goose chase for aliens. Right? How do you think the most secure airspace in the world became public domain? It's because that's what they intended to have happen. And in this article, you'll find a couple other videos we've made, and you'll get direct links to Stephen Greenstreet's videos. This is good. You guys should go watch. Right after this show, you should go watch this. This is excellent. And you'll come away from it very, very convinced and very sure that this is right. Because it was Representative Congressman Eric Burleson said that David Grush's claims of non-human beings from another dimension aligns with God's angels in the Bible. Okay. It does until you look at how they're behaving. God's angels don't deceive. Demons do deceive. So there's a difference there. But he also said that they're like messengers of God. What's the message? Right? This is what someone was talking about earlier, right? Doctrines of demons. Any message that comes to you packaged in some otherworldly idea where there's another planet out there with beings living on it, that's going to be a doctrine of a demon, because that counters the gospel. Jesus Christ died once. His sacrifice was sufficient. Once. For all. On this planet. No other planets. He didn't go around dying on other planets for other beings. So anyway, you should check this article out. I don't know. Maybe I've got a bunch of links here. Maybe we can drop them into the description of this video, or maybe just put up a Substack with just a bunch of links in it or something. Because there's just a lot of stuff to catch up on here. Because I want you folks to be very informed on this topic, because it's about to hit the news again in a big way, and I want you to be. What's my word here?
Solid as a rock.
I want you to be solid as a rock. I want you to know.
On the rock of the ages.
Right. Is it exotic alien tech? No. We're going to that. We're going to the UFO mythology. Wow, this was a long article. This is like a small book here. I've forgotten about that. Here's what G.K. Chesterton said. When men choose not to believe in God, they don't thereafter believe in nothing. They then become capable of believing anything. So, and here it is. One of my favorite shows that we've done together. Remember this one? Where you were talking about the Artemis Accords, and I was talking about SETI and how the Frank Drake equation.
That was on True Normal TV.
Yeah, that's right. That's on True Normal TV. So there's another, maybe. I bet. Well, the link to that's going to be in this article too. So we deal with the Drake equation that supposedly says that it's mathematically impossible for there not to be aliens. Well, okay, we'll take care of that, because that's not real. That's not true either. And he spent his life listening for evidence of aliens from. And this is how we qualified it. Basically, he spent his life like Don Quixote, tilting at windmills. Extravagantly chivalrous or romantic visionary, impractical or impracticable, impulsive and often rashly unpredictable. And there's this is one of those graphics you made showing through the years how the narrative has progressed. This one we were tying the UFO narrative to the climate change narrative, and spiritualism or spiritism. Wow, this is really a big article. Oh, here we go. We have to finish up with Bashar here.
And I'll say good day to you this day of your time. After the transmissions we have delivered for the past 40 years of your time, we now begin a new chapter, having reached the end of one cycle and the beginning of another.
The only other question I have at this time, it just dawned on me that like the work you're doing to with First Contact, I was really
okay.
Anyway. I'll say good day.
One of two things is happening here with Daryl Lanka, who is channeling Bashar. He's either playing it up, and it's just, you know, he's hamming it up, or he's channeling a demon. Neither one of those things are good. Neither one of those things are good. So, but the reason we shared this is because this is where it all ultimately leads. That's what Summer said earlier. When you become interested in this topic, it always leads to the same place. It leads to occultism. It leads to wanting to connect and communicate and study these things, and it leads you somewhere you don't want to be. Now, for our final segment, Donald Trump has the climate change movement shaking in its boots. COP29 is beginning this week. Listen to this from CBS News.
Welcome back to America Decides. A major climate summit is underway in Azerbaijan today, and uncertainty over the U.S.'s commitments to combating global warming is front and center. President-elect Trump has said he will exit the Paris Climate Agreement again. That's an accord signed in 2016 with the aim of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The U.S. withdrew during Trump's first term, but rejoined it under President Biden. Climate envoy John Podesta criticized the former president at the United Nations conference today.
In January, we're going to inaugurate a president whose relationship to climate change is captured by the words hoax and fossil fuels.
That's right.
CBS News national environmental correspondent David Schechter joins us now. David, thanks for being here. How are nations at COP29 responding to all of this?
Well, I think that there's a lot of question about the leadership of the United States now in the world when it comes to climate change. For the last 4 years, the Biden administration has taken a central role in trying to lead the world through the issue of climate change, bring countries together, and also a lot of legislation inside our country to reduce the worst impacts of climate change. Now you have a complete change of direction, and as Podesta is referencing, sort of potentially a lame duck approach going into this COP29, and then the people of the world, the leaders of the world say, well, we probably shouldn't be listening to the Biden administration anymore because the Trump administration, we know, is going to come in and make significant plans, up to pulling itself out of the Paris Accords, which would just change the entire tenor of the conversation.
Exactly.
What could another Trump administration mean for global efforts to address climate change? What does your reporting tell you?
I think, it's two ways to look at it. A withdrawal from leadership around the world.
Just listen to what we're hearing. The belief in this movement is the same as the belief in the what we just saw with the UFO movement, because the evidence does not support their claims.
World and opening up a vacuum for other countries to be part of this, like to have a bigger role, like China, which 40% of Chinese GDP is related to the green economy. They're very interested in this, and they want to export their goods around the world. They would like to be a leader
China
on
cares
this
about
issue.
the environment.
On the other hand, you'll hear a lot of people.
They care because they're not going to be penalized for anything that they do.
Yeah, they don't. No, because the U.S. pays for everything. Well, did. They're not going to anymore.
Yeah, other nations are going to have to pay the reparations. So
he's going to talk about the 1.5 degree mark now, which is
say, look, climate change is more than a U.S. problem. Of course, U.S. is a huge contributor to it, but this is a world problem. No other countries follow.
All right. So here's where your Marxism, here's where your communism comes in, because, and this is what Gavin Ortland was saying. We should be so embarrassed at how much we contribute to climate change and polluting the world. Is it true though? Because that claim doesn't turn out to be true. Of course we affect the environment, but not like they're saying. What they want you to do, they want you to be embarrassed. They want you to feel guilty about being affluent. They want you to feel bad about your position in the world
because it's priming for when they're going to tax you. They're going to take the money out so you can pay those reparations for the damage that you've done to these other countries.
Well, to bring down the United States, you have to bring down the people.
Yeah.
You have to demoralize the people, and you
it's
have
more
to
transfer of wealth.
You have to extract the wealth out of the nation too.
It's a con.
Yeah, it's a big con. So listen to the last minute of
Trump,
this.
when he left the Paris Accord the first time, and it's probably not likely that they will again. So countries still are going to come to the table with their commitments. It's just a question of the biggest player not being there. I think just adds a level of uncertainty.
So what does the climate look like in terms of what scientists are talking about and what their concerns are, in particular for what world leaders should be doing in the coming years?
I think right now there's a report that just came out that the world has reached 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming for the first time ever. So it's like going to be the hottest year on record ever. And
don't forget that. Don't forget that comment. It's going to be the hottest year on record. Don't forget that.
At the same time, we have now exceeded this level that scientists told us is what we need to hold to, and we're going to overshoot that. So it just puts the whole thing in context. We got wildfires in New Jersey right now. You know, we have more extreme flood, we have more extreme fire, more extreme drought, and at this moment,
those are all claims that need some evidence to back them up. Do we have more extreme? And by more extreme, do you mean this has never happened before on the Earth?
When the world is coming together for answers, the world is just getting worse.
It's just getting worse, Summer.
It's just getting worse.
What are they talking about? Right? This claim about 1.5 degrees Celsius. Why 1.5 degrees? Where did that come from? That number that they always float out there is the atmospheric warming threshold. That's the tipping point that the public's been led to believe must be avoided at all costs. In 2015, in response to, prompting by the Club of Rome and United Nations and all of these groups, nearly every country in the world signed on to the Paris Agreement, the Paris Accords, a landmark international treaty. 195 nations pledged to hold the Earth's temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius. How could you promise that? You're not in charge of the global climate. But the point is this, listen to this language. To keep the Earth's temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Now tell me, what is the goal of energy consumption for Agenda 21? It's to take it back, take our energy use back to pre-1985 levels. That's what it says in the Agenda 21, or what's called now the Agenda 21 Sustainable Development.
Well, it's their excuse
document.
for not allowing you to do the things that you used to do, like drive to see your family that's 2 hours away or get on a plane and go on a vacation.
This is equity. Mm-hmm. This is how equity works. This is how, when Kamala was saying that we have to make sure that people end up in the same place, that's how they believe they can do it, is by handicapping us with these restrictions.
And you're not allowed to go outside your zone, right? The 15-minute cities and all that stuff.
Yeah, that would be another part of it.
Right.
So 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Going further, though, to aim to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. So the real goal was to keep it below 2. The 1.5 degrees Celsius is the number that they wanted to shoot for, just to be safe, right? Oh, that's not science. Former meteorologist, scientist Brian Sussman, whose books we've shared with you here, says this: the climate catechism, because this is a religion, contends that since the last ice age, some 12,000 years ago, the planet was naturally unthawing just fine until human beings discovered the energy available through the use of fossil fuels, and capitalists exploiting labor launched the Industrial Revolution. Just point out here the fact that fossil fuels, that petroleum, that oil and hydrocarbons, that's a gift from God. That's why they hate it. It is the most efficient form of energy on the planet. And it's a gift from God. And ultimately, that's why they hate it. Now, billions of humans, trains, planes. The temperature has risen now, as of the last couple years, the last count. Now they're saying it's 1.5 now, but up until this year, it's been 1.2 degrees Celsius is where it's been. Soon to hit that danger mark of 1.5 if we don't quickly conform to net zero. And if that doesn't work, even more drastic measures. We'll just shut it all down, have climate lockdowns. Because all the experts with their computer models say so. And trust me, drastic measures are being designed by both governments and billionaires. But when you take a step back from all this, and you just think about it logically for a minute, imagine a conversation with someone who's a believer in all this. You ask them this. If you ever get into this conversation, ask somebody this question. If we already reached this 1.2 degrees Celsius level, or 1.5, what's another 3 degrees? 0.3 degrees. What's another 0.3 degrees going to look like? Are the oceans going to boil because of 0.3 degrees? Will we even notice? I'll ask you this. The last time this was measured or they talked about it was about 5 years ago, and they said, we've hit that 1.2 degree level. Watch out, we're getting close. Now they're reporting we're at the 1.5 level. Do you see, have you noticed a very marked difference? Would you ever notice if it went to 2 degrees or 3 degrees? The climate disciple will immediately go to Google, and then they'll respond, the planet is currently experiencing some of the warmest weather on record. What about the recent record cold temperatures on the planet? They don't think it's necessary to engage their phone. They quickly answer, there are none. Last winter, the summit of Mount Washington, New Hampshire, reported, and this is several years ago, reported a wind chill of minus 78 degrees Celsius. That's minus 108 degrees Fahrenheit. The coldest temperature ever recorded in the United States. California had its fourth coldest March since 1885. That's not the world. That's the United States, they say. You're correct. How about this? In 2021, the average temperature at the South Pole between their winter months of April and September was minus 78 degrees Fahrenheit. That's minus 61 Celsius. That's the coldest on record. The extreme cold pushed sea ice levels surrounding surrounding Antarctica to one of their highest levels on record. You didn't hear that in the news, did you? And they'll call that fake news. But that news, that science, that evidence, that information comes from the United States Antarctic Program, administered by the National Science Foundation and the National Snow and Ice Data Center. No big deal. Those are probably Trump organizations or something. Go to TikTok for your evidence, right? What about the climate models? Problems with climate models. Clouds associated with thunderstorms play a major role in the climate cycle because they reflect the sun's energy back into space. They also trap heat that rises from the surface, but climate models cannot account for thunderstorms or these kinds of clouds. What kind of clouds?
Cumulonimbus.
Yes, yes. Climate models cannot deal with these kinds of clouds. Or even water vapor. Can you imagine? They're telling us that we have to completely change our lifestyles because of models based on data where they can't even take into account what the clouds do to the atmosphere. They're unable to replicate the actions produced by powerful ocean currents, which are essentially massive weather conveyor belts. That's what the Gulf Stream is, that brings warm water up from the south up into the Atlantic Ocean out past the East Coast. Weather patterns are driven by these currents, and these currents are created by a combination of surface winds, water temperature, and salinity gradients in the water. Also, Earth's rotation plays a role. Gravitational effects of the sun and the moon create tides. There's also the effect of sunspots, grand solar minimums and maximums that occur. transport warm water and precipitation from the equator toward the poles. This is why we have hurricanes when the seasons are changing, typically going into the fall. Cold water from the poles carries it back to the tropics, regulating the global climate, counteracting the uneven distribution of solar radiation reaching the Earth's surface. Now, this is what a scientist would say. But the models don't account for any of this. They don't account for the currents. They don't account for the clouds. They don't account for these elements at all. So what do climate modelers do when they just don't know? Well, they build in approximations. We'll just approximate that this is what the cloud cover would cause. This is what the ocean currents would do. And when they can't approximate, they just leave it out. And what we've seen over the years, since the Club of Rome, the Limits to Growth paper, and all of the scare tactics in the early 70s about the coming ice age and then the coming global warming, and, well, the models have always been wrong. They have a terrible track record. Apart from failing to predict a pause in global warming in the early 2000s, the models are known even by modelers to consistently run too hot, to predict too high. Could it be then what we're actually seeing here is human bias? Could it be that there's a political agenda involved here? Is that why these estimations are made by the modelers? Is that why when they can't account for the clouds or the currents, they just input data that will work to their advantage, that we've never seen come true? The walls of this house of climate change are made up on the moral case for eliminating fossil fuels. That's what it's all about. As Alex Epstein has summarized for us in his book, Fossil Future, it usually goes something like this. By the way, I'll show you his website right there. If you want to take on somebody on climate change, Alex Epstein's done all the work for you. Every net zero by 2050 myth refuted right here. EnergyTalkingPoints.com. Carbon dioxide emissions from the world's massive use of fossil fuels are causing catastrophic climate change. That's the narrative. Ever worse heat waves, storms, floods, wildfires, and droughts. This catastrophic climate change, along with other negative side effects of fossil fuel use, these are assumptions, such as air pollution and water pollution, which we now know causes autism, right, Sammy? All of this they use to make us morally obligated to rapidly eliminate our fossil fuel use and to reach net zero carbon dioxide emissions by 2050 at the latest. So to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, or the absolute most 2 degrees Celsius, over pre-industrial, pre-fossil fuel temperatures. What's going to replace fossil fuels? Of course, they've got the answer. Problem, reaction, solution. Green, renewable energy, solar and wind energy, especially, which are already rapidly replacing fossil fuels at lower cost, right? Is it really? And with sufficient political will, can soon power the world. The only people who oppose the rapid elimination of fossil fuels and its replacement by green energy are deniers and delayers and Trump supporters. Above all, they say it's the fossil fuel industry. This moral case for eliminating fossil fuels is not portrayed as one competing view among many. It's the only view. It's the unanimous consensus of experts by a wide variety of trusted sources. Right? Institutions, which we know have been captured by a particular group of people. Institutions push this like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the BBC, spokespeople from numerous scientific institutions. The prestigious United Nations pushes this. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The spokespeople of every major government around the world, all of whom have signed on to the Paris Agreement, which calls for the rapid elimination of fossil fuel. And the leaders of leading financial institutions like BlackRock. Stone would be in there too. They've all signed on to net zero or 100% renewable pledges, claiming that they are moral and practical people. When so many trusted sources are telling us there's an expert consensus for fossil fuel elimination, well, it might be hard to imagine the moral case for eliminating fossil fuels isn't at least basically right. There's no way all these experts could be totally wrong. Might feel like the safe, morally superior position to oppose fossil fuels, to fight against the prosperity of privileged people who are doing all this damage to the environment and causing famines and wars and forcing the poor people from the countries most affected by climate change to flee to developed and prosperous colonial Western nations who do not deserve their wealth, is what they say. Well, you might understand why many people who simply don't have the time to do this research might just be convinced to take up the cause, because you don't want to be lumped in with those crazy Trump supporters, do you? You might find yourself fighting against your own interests, fighting against Western hegemony to save the planet. The question is, have these experts ever been right about fossil fuels, CO2, and global warming? And the answer is no. They've been wrong over and over and over again.
I'm not trying to scare people with this. That's not the motive, but it's just trying to be accurate, and we need to understand what a big deal this is. The basic principle of love your neighbor.
Yes, you said that science is the only thing that you could add a "the" in front of it and it becomes the opposite. What did you mean by that?
Well, the science contradicts the whole notion of science. Science is a mode of inquiry. The science says it's a mode of authority. They're two very different things. The vast majority of the public has no idea what science is, and that certainly includes the political class. So for them, they know that as politicians, people don't give them a lot of authority. They see that people, quote, trust science, and so they think of science as a source of authority that they would like to co-opt. That shows they have no idea what science is.
Models that create fear, marshaling of data to foment anxiety, and a massive marketing campaign is the primary motivator behind this.
Not science.
Increasingly model-driven mania about global warming is at odds with what we understand about models. Models are not a valid test of a hypothesis in a complex system. They can't be. So we are treating these models as if they tell us what's going to happen, and that is not a philosophically valid thing to do.
There is pretty much a scientific consensus, or a very close to a scientific consensus, on human-caused climate change as a very real problem.
In this interview, Alex talks with Dr. Willie Soon, who spent time as a researcher at the Solar and Stellar Physics Division of the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, and is potentially maybe the best astrophysicist on the planet.
We are scientists, so we set out to seek the truth and nothing but the truth. So it's been puzzling everyone, I would say every scientist, on this topic. So it turns out that IPCC has been, I guess, wrong and biased. That's the kindest word I can use, for 30 years. And they've been, in some sense, hoodwink everyone.
If you're going to go against a near consensus in the scientific community, study it and make sure that that's a wise thing to do, because I see a lot of people reacting instinctively rather than really hitting the books. And I don't think that that's a responsible posture for Christians to take.
You haven't really hit the books. You haven't really studied the issue all that well. Well, the same claim could be made in the opposite direction. It's also possible that those who affirm and repeat the official narrative are doing so without hitting the books. If our duty is to be discerning and reasonable, to seek justice and to speak the truth in love on these issues, shouldn't we be willing to consider that it's possible, given the institutional prestige and power behind it, and that many of those who proselytize the science do so without ever really investigating the claims too deeply.
Of climate change is not only extremely well supported in the scientific community, it's also very intuitive and commonsensical and basic.
My skepticism as an outsider, someone who's not an expert in climate science anyway, is not based on the belief that the experts who have been researching in their fields of study for decades are making mistakes in their research. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that the experts are getting it wrong. What's happening is that the system that's responsible for reporting to us what experts think is broken, and in many cases, severely distorting the data to shape a false reality. One that serves special interest groups, lobbies, corporate cronies, and the kind of people who will do almost anything to maintain their position of power.
From 2007 on, every other scientific body of national or international standing agrees that human-caused global warming is a serious problem. So the level of conspiracy and hoax it would be if somehow all of these different people think that scientists are all together. People have this distrust of science. Science is an inherently conservative process, and these people are not all in cahoots with each other, you know. If somebody could disprove this, there'd be much incentive to do that. And yet you have so much agreement in the scientific community.
He's arguing for consensus. What can we say about consensus? What can we say? Some of the worst ideas in history, like slavery, racism, eugenics, all successfully spread because they were expert consensus. Experts should be advisors. Experts should not be authorities. Whenever experts become the authorities, you're living in a technocracy. That's a scientific dictatorship. That is the essence of a communist regime. That is the essence of a communist. Excuse me.
Who was the first climate change guy out there on the world scene?
Well, that was Vladimir Lenin.
That's right.
And he was following the lead of Karl Marx and the people that influenced Karl Marx, who started the environmentalist movement in London.
That's right.
With bird poop. You can go back to look for that thumbnail that says Climate Cult with Vladimir Lenin's face. You'll see. It's one of the best shows that we've done together.
Birds of a feather flock together.
That's right. Brian Sussman, I'll let you hear him just for a second here. This is Brian Sussman. I quoted him earlier. He was a former meteorologist. He's a scientist. He's got some skin in the game here, and he's been lost jobs for his position on the truth about the climate.
Climate crisis in focus. She looks even surprised. When I was working for CBS, I had a producer who got in an argument with me about global warming. It's a long story, but I'll cut to the chase. This producer told me I had a problem. My problem was I didn't know which facts to leave out. And therein lies the secret to the madness that's going on in the media. These people have an agenda. They do not have a moral backbone, and therefore, they'll share with you a few little tidbits here and there that may be truthful, but they have an agenda to scare people into submission.
Hence what we just heard about, the big reveal about fluoride.
Yeah. Again,
it's a big nothing burger in a sense.
So what happens is this. How do we get... Well, first of all, you see this in the church now. Gavin Ortlund himself said, if you are pro-life, you have to be for fighting climate change. I forget how he said it, but if you're pro-life, then you have to.
Yeah, because you want to save future generations, right?
You have to believe. Yeah, you have to be a believer. Well, no, we're going to follow the truth. We're going to use a biblical foundation for getting our way to the truth. And what you can see here is some good work that.
Well, I'm sorry. I just wanted to put this just dawned on me that, yeah, definitely we can see it because we know what the Bible has said. But also, if you just read history books and you read about what's happened with communism and how they've manipulated societies and brought countries down, it's a playbook. This is what they do.
This is a way, This is a way to take countries that are prosperous and affluent to bring them down.
Yeah,
that's
you don't like what they're doing, so they're just going to come in and take them over from the inside.
So they're against colonialism, right?
Imperialism, colonialism.
But what is the climate change? What is the green
patriarchy?
Movement? It is the largest
colonization
movement of colonialism ever.
Right. Because with communism, it has to be for all. That's right. That means every single person.
Earth for all.
Earth for all. All countries must participate.
Well, you heard what Sussman said there about you have to know what facts to leave out. And the Capital Research Center has done a lot of work here. We've got right here in this article that we've got on Substack as well. Secret Wars, Christian Communism, and the Cult of Consensus. This is another long one, a good research article that we've done here, and you can find the full video that we were just showing you there. I encourage you to check this one out too. They discovered that there was something called creation care. That was another way to say climate change and bring it into the church and to tie global warming to poverty and label climate change as the ultimate moral issue facing modern Christianity. So it worked its way into the church, and therefore it's gained some credibility.
Right. And I just want to mention too that this guy, Doug Burgum, if you read about what was written in that article about him and him talking, he's acting as if the carbon market is a legit thing and Agenda 2030 is a legit thing. But, he's got questions about the technology and the way to get to that path. He wants to introduce new technologies to solve the solution. Yeah. Well, guys, because they're like, conservatives have always been criticized like they don't care about the environment. So, we want to show that we actually care about the environment. We're going to come about it with different technologies and better solutions. Well, hey, guys, the problem is you are buying into the boogeyman of this idea that we need to live in a carbon market. No, thank you. No, thank you to Agenda 2030. No, thank you to a carbon market. No.
Exactly right. How would something like this ever work its way into the church and then ultimately infiltrate all of our society in America? Well, the process of evil finding its way into a society, finding its way into the church, it's always the same process. First, it's like Sussman said, first they ignore certain facts. First they ignore evil. And then they get so used to it, the conscience becomes seared and they permit evil. They don't even realize that it's evil anymore. And then they legalize evil. And then they promote evil. And then they start celebrating evil. And then they persecute those who still call it evil. Isaiah 5:20 says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil." Son, anything on the way out?
That's a wrap.
God bless you, my friends. We'll see you again here very soon. Let me remind you, while I still have you here with me, download the Armor of Truth mobile app. You're going to need it real soon because our time on YouTube is quickly coming to an end, it seems.
Follow us on Substack.
Do that. Follow us on Substack. Look for Armor of Truth TV on Locals and Rumble as well, because we're going to be doing some work there.
And Telegram. We're on Telegram.
Telegram.
Instagram.
Twitter.
Or
X. And
we do post stuff on those platforms that's interesting. So we don't have that many followers, but if you guys want to keep up with us, we do post stuff there like daily. It's good.
I mean, there's so much work time-consuming work that goes into just researching and writing and putting this together that the process of promotion is something that, we could use some help with that. And that's where you come in. Help us out. take a moment to like this video. That is promotion. That's free and it helps us. Leave a comment under the video. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the Armor of Truth YouTube channel and go to these other places, platforms too. It's free and it really does help us. But more than anything, please download the Armor of Truth mobile app today. It's 100% free and it always will be. You'll always get a live notification or when we put out a podcast or when we put out a new article. You also get exclusive content, articles, reports, and resources. If you can support AOT financially, we're coming to the end of 2024, and we never know from year to year, so we need your help to be on the air again in 2025. You can use the AOT mobile app Give tab if you're on the app, or you can visit our website, armoroftruth.net/donate, or just follow the links in the description below this video. So what are you waiting for? Download the Armor of Truth mobile app today. Join us over there. My name is Brad, and I'm joined here tonight by my talented and lovely wife, Summer, and together we're Armor of Truth, and we're seeking a worldview revolution through God's revelation.
Faith is resistance.
God bless you, my friends. See you next time.
The hammer comes down and beats you over the head for the rest of your life with a big national security stick. And so that people learn to duck their head and not speak up because bad idea now.
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test. Citizens are advised to take the following steps.
Find us, armoroftruth.net.
In the age of technocracy, scientism, and pop atheism,
Faith is resistance.
Nietzsche, of course, announced the death of God and called for the birth of the Übermensch, the Superman, who would take humanity to new heights and to create a new world order.
Find us at the Armor of Truth YouTube channel.
This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test.